Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you are having a fantastic day so far. In today's video, as you can see from the title down below, I am going to be swatching every single E.L.F. bite-size eyeshadow palette. I've got every single one here and I'm going to be swatching them for you today and comparing the shades, because across the whole range here there are some similarities. So I'm going to be swatching all of them. Hopefully I'll get all of them on my arm today. Let's see how that goes. But I'm going to start with like the most neutral, the most everyday sort of ones, and lead up to the most colourful. Let's just get started. So starting with possibly the most wearable one out of my collection, this is I Love You a Latte, and this is all matte shades. Obviously all of the browns that you would ever need if you are my sort of skin tone. I use this one probably out of all of them. I probably use this one the most because sometimes you just need a little brown shade through the crease to then put something over the top. Sometimes you just need those basic shades, and these ones I reach for so often when I'm wanting something basically to layer underneath, you know, like a pop of something sparkly or something like that. I generally reach for this one because they're so small, they're so compact, you don't get overwhelmed with like a £42 palette, for example. You just have all of your basics covered. So let me swatch these ones. So obviously that lightest shade there is the same colour as my skin tone, but you get the idea. We've got a warm brown, we've got a neutral brown, and then we've got a darker brown, and then basically my skin tone to like blend it all out. Really usable colours, and like I said, one that I reach for all the time. So great starting point. If you don't have any of these palettes, I really recommend this one. Then next up we have Orange Dreamsicle. This one has like two shimmers, one matte, and then this second shade in is like a matte with little bits of micro glitter in it. Now obviously for my sort of skin tone this would absolutely work for an everyday look. You're not going to get the depth, you're not going to get the smokiness from this palette, but I do like that it's got those shimmer shades in it. So in contrast to the last one where it's just like your basics, this one has a little something sparkly in it. I do like this one and I do use this one. I would say probably not as much as the first one, as much as I Love You a Latte, but the colours are really beautiful. I would say, however, if you were any deeper than my sort of skin tone, if you were medium or deep skin toned, these colours are just not going to show up on you, and I really hope that they are showing up on the swatches. The shimmers are really reflective, the shimmers are beautiful, but they are definitely very fair, and the colours do get deeper, so there is something for you if you are of a deeper skin tone. There are options, but really if you are any deeper than my skin tone, this one is not going to work for you. Then next up we have Cream and Sugar. If you're wanting something that is sort of similar to the first one where it's just all of your basics covered, but you're also wanting a shimmer option, this goes from really fair to really deep. Obviously this is like a very dark brown, but the two shimmers in the middle are more like middle of the road, so you can make more of an everyday sort of a look if you go very light-handed with this darker shade. So if you're wanting something like I Love You a Latte but you know that you like a shimmer, this would be a really great option. So again, the lightest shade here is very light, and then the darkest shade is obviously quite deep, quite dark, but the two shimmer shades in the middle are absolutely beautiful. So for somebody like me who is incredibly fair but also likes quite a lot of depth and quite a smoky eye just on an everyday basis, this is a really great option. If you have I Love You a Latte and you're wanting something to just add in so that you get that little bit of sparkle, this is a really great option. If you have a space in your collection for something that is that neutral but that has the shimmery options, I would say Cream and Sugar is probably a great option for you and to skip out on I Love Your Latte. Next up we have Truffles, and this sort of starts out being very much deeper than the last ones. However, it is still all of your sort of neutrally nude shades. Apart from this one comes with a black, and the black has little bits of micro glitter in it, so it's not a completely matte shade. It does have those little bits of glitter in it, which gives it that little edge. So the two shades in the middle are matte, then this one at this end is a shimmer. I feel like this is a really great option if you are of a medium or deeper skin tone and you're wanting something to give you that neutrally brown smoky look. And again, it's just the 4 shades. All of these are just the 4 shades, so it's not overwhelming. You know what sort of look you're going to get with a palette like this. You don't have to overthink it and think what shades are going to go together. That's what I really love about these palettes. You know what you're going to be doing. You don't have to think about what shades to put together to create a look. It's only got the 4, so just use the 4 and you know you're good to go. So this is Truffles here, and I would say that if you have Cream and Sugar and I Love Your Latte, you probably don't need Truffles unless you're wanting that black shade, but I feel like we've all got a black in our collection somewhere. So although this black does have that micro glitter in it, it's not completely apparent like on the swatch or as you're using it. It is just very, very subtle. I like that it's there. I like that that black option is there. I also feel like the shimmer in Truffle is a lot more grey toned than the ones that are in Cream and Sugar. So if you're wanting something that has that warmth, Cream and Sugar is probably your go, but Truffle has more of that grey toned shimmer if that's what you prefer. Next up we have got Pumpkin Pie, and I will start off by saying I disagree with that name. When I think of like a pumpkin pie or pumpkin spice inspired makeup look, I definitely think a lot warmer than these ones. Obviously they do lean warmer than like the last palette that we were looking at, but I do feel like if you're wanting something that is very much that pumpkin spice, sort of a very toasty, very warm, very sort of burnt orangey look, I don't know if this is necessarily it. I do feel like it's beautiful. I do really like the shades. I like that it's got 2 mattes and 2 shimmers, so it gives you a little bit of an option, but again, not too much, because otherwise your gal gets overwhelmed with options. But I do feel like Pumpkin Pie, I would expect from that name something a little bit warmer, a little bit more burnt orangey than this one. Okay, so those swatches are looking so incredibly messy, but I just tried to clean up underneath them so that I don't run out of room. So these are Pumpkin Pie, and the shimmers I feel like in this one are absolutely beautiful, but like I say, Pumpkin Pie I feel like is a little bit misleading. I love an orangey, burnt orangey eye look, and I feel like from this one I just want more. I do still feel like this is quite neutral. I feel like if you're wanting something that is neutral but that has more of a warmer shimmer option, this is probably your go-to. If you have Cream and Sugar, I would say you probably don't need this one because the shimmers are quite similar to this shimmer here. The darkest shade is similar but slightly less dark, slightly lighter in Pumpkin Pie, but it has the benefit of also having a transition tone that is probably a little bit more usable for more people in Pumpkin Pie. I do feel like if you have Truffles and you're wanting something that's warmer, then Pumpkin Pie I would recommend over the other ones, but if you're just wanting one and you're wanting something that is more of a warmer brown tone and you're my sort of skin tone and you like something that's that warmer brown shimmer, Pumpkin Pie is probably a good one to go for. Then next up we have got Carnival Candy, and I've got some feelings about this one. So it's got basically a really great selection of like neutrals and then this pop of blue. I don't know where this fits into my collection, basically, is my problem with it. It's got your neutrals, so you can do just like a brown, reddy brown sort of burgundy smoky eye, and then it's just got this like completely random blue shade. I feel like the only look that I could do with this to really capitalize on every shade is doing like a brown sort of summit through the crease and then doing the blue as like a smoky wing. But that's the only way that I could go with it. I couldn't use these shades in other ways if I was wanting to use every single one, because the blue is so deep and so intense and also shimmery that I don't feel like I really get my wear out of this one. Let me swatch it for you. So again, that lightest shade is basically the same colour as my skin tone. The next shade across is a neutral, sort of leaning a little bit warm brown shade that I could use through my crease. The next shade over is a burgundy, sort of a deeper shade, and then the blue. So I'm like, I just don't see how I could use every shade of this palette to its fullest potential. I love a blue, okay? I love a blue eyeshadow look, but I feel like I would need more than one blue, and I would need a matte blue to go with it to really capitalize on the blue. I just feel like it's a little bit of a strange combination of shades. Like, I could do a whole eye look just with the 3 matte shades, or I could do something with the blue. I don't feel like they necessarily go together for me. Then next up we have got Rose Water, and this is one of the first ones I ever bought, I think, and I really enjoy it. I think that the colour selection has been really well thought out. I can create something just completely every day, just a little bit of something, or because it's got the darker shade, you can go quite smoky. I really like this one. So it's only got 1 matte, which I feel like I could have done with this one being matte as well. This one is that sort of one that I was saying about the black one a while ago, where it's like a matte with a micro glitter in it, but honestly the glitter like barely shows up at all. And then these 2 shades are shimmery, so I feel like for an everyday I can put this one across the lid. For something a little bit more dramatic, I can put that one across the lid. It gives you a few little options. I do feel like you couldn't necessarily capitalise on this one if you were of a deeper skin tone than me. I do feel like this leans very fair, but it's starting to get that little bit colourful. It's starting to lean into the purples a little bit, which I feel like purple is sort of a neutral. Like, these sort of purples you can get away with just on an everyday basis and it doesn't look too out of place. Do you know what I mean? Then next up we have got Berry Bad, and I have not used this one before, so I'm excited to see how these swatch, because that second shade in looks absolutely incredible. It's got 2 mattes and 2 shimmers, so this one is slightly more berry toned, hence the name. Slightly warmer, sort of pinky tones, rather than the last one, which was very much like cool purple tones. This one is more pink, warmer tones. Again, I feel like still very neutral, still very wearable. I also feel like you're getting a little bit deeper here, so if you're wanting something and you are more of a medium skin tone, I feel like this would be a really great everyday option. There we go, so we're getting slightly deeper, slightly darker, slightly smokier. I don't know why that matte shade is swatching so terribly. I promise that does look like an eye shade, but I feel like this one or Pumpkin Pie for that sort of neutral, warm, but still everyday, still very wearable sort of an eye look. If you're wanting something that's just slightly pinker, then Berry Bad would be the way that I would go. I do feel like if you had Berry Bad, you probably wouldn't need Pumpkin Pie unless you're wanting that orange, unless you're wanting something that is that orangey, coppery sort of shade. But I do also feel like if you had Berry Bad, you probably wouldn't need Rose Water. Like, I do feel like they're quite similar, and unless you are incredibly fair like me, you're probably not going to get the use out of those very lighter shades. Then next up we've got the 2 limited edition palettes from E.L.F. So these are the Good Vibes Only palettes, and I'm going to start with Hey Sunshine, which by the name it is yellows, and I feel like I really enjoy a yellow, but I appreciate it's not for everybody. I really like just this yellow, brightest yellow shade all across the lid, blended out, really thick black wing. I absolutely love that look. I wear it so incredibly often. But you've got 1 shimmer, which is this one at this end, and then the other 3 are mattes. So I feel like if you're wanting something that is more yellowy toned than I Love You a Latte or Truffles or something like that, where it's basically your neutrals but you're wanting something a little bit more yellowy mustardy, this is a really great one. And I do like that it's got its lightest shade as the shimmer, so I feel like that's how most people would wear a colour like this, or a colour story like this. Create like a brown smoky eye with the matte shades and then a little bit of the shimmer just like right across the lid. I absolutely love both of these limited edition ones, but I would probably say that this is the one that I get the most use out of every shade. So we're going to have to get a little bit creative with the swatches now, but that's those ones there, and I really hope that that shimmer is showing up. It's really bright. It's a really bright, sort of powerful yellow, the shimmer, but I feel like it's got your sort of neutrally everyday browns where you can just create a brown smoky eye, and I also feel like where the darker shade goes quite deep, if you are of a deeper skin tone or a medium skin tone, that one would also show up really well. And I also feel like the brightest yellow matte, the second one in, is so intensely pigmented that it would also show up. I absolutely love this one. I'm not sure. I was about to say I think that this is my most worn one. Between this one and I Love You a Latte, it could be either. Then next up we have got Psychedelic Dreams. So in this one, these 2 shades are shimmers and then these 2 shades are mattes. And if you don't know, this teal shade at this end is my absolute favourite colour of all time. And the way that I like to use this palette is putting this shade through the crease, putting the green shimmer across the lid, and then doing a smoky wing with the teal and then the brightest shade right on the inner corner. This teal shade as a smoky wing is the most perfect look. I absolutely love it, and I feel like the pop of the bright green, we're definitely getting more colourful now. If you're wanting to try your hand at a little bit of green, a little bit of a bluey, greeny, tealy sort of a vibe, this is such a great one. And I do like that that darkest teal shade is a matte. I feel like it makes it a lot more usable. Like if that was a shimmer, I don't know if I would use it as that sort of a smoky wing, but because it's a matte, I feel like I get a lot more use out of it that way. So these ones here are Psychedelic Dreams, and I feel like basically if you know you're going to like green and the teal shade, absolutely go for this one. If you're wanting to give it a go, you're wanting to see how you feel about green on yourself and the teal on, you know, your colouring and everything, absolutely. If you know that you're not going to like teal and you're not going to really play with any sort of colour, then definitely the Hey Sunshine one. It's got a very similar tone, so this matte shade and this matte shade are very similar. So if that's the sort of vibe that you go for, then I think you can probably skip this one. But for me, I really love it. Then next up we've got this one here, and I have just had to Google how to pronounce this one. I think it's Acai You. I don't know what that means. I mean, I know what like an acai bowl is, but what does Acai You mean? other than this palette here. So like I say, this is a brand new one, just taken the packaging off now. The two shades at the end are mattes and the two shades in the middle are shimmers. So obviously it's blue. Obviously we're getting that sort of lilac-y blue vibe from this one, but I do feel like it's quite different from Rose Water, which is very much more purple lilac rather than blue lilac. So I do feel like they are quite different, but it just depends what sort of purpley tone you're wanting to go for. I feel like both are the same sort of depth. Like you get a very light shade, you get quite a deep shade, and then you get the two shimmers. But it just depends what sort of tone you want. If you're wanting something more blue or if you're wanting something more purple, you got options. I do feel like these are more cool toned. Like this darkest shade here is very much like a grey. So that is those ones there. I feel like the shimmers in this one aren't shimmering like the rest of them. And even in real life, I'm like, I can't really see the shimmer all that much. They're definitely not as reflective as like some of the other shades. They're more of like a smoother sort of a foil finish, like a shimmer, like a satin finish, rather than something that is just straight up glittery. I do feel like it's very different from the other ones on my arm there. I'm definitely running out of space. Thankfully we've only got one to go. But I do feel like it definitely is giving a very different vibe from everything else. I don't know if it's necessarily the sort of thing that I would reach for all that much, because these are the sort of things that I reach for all the time. But if you're wanting something that is more cool toned, if you're wanting something that is more grey, if you're wanting something that's that more lilac-y, bright blue, like baby blue sort of a vibe, I do feel like they're very, very pretty. Obviously very, very pigmented. Obviously the formula for these E.L.F eyeshadows are very, very easy to work with, very, very user friendly. I'm just not sure that these are necessarily my sort of tones. And then the last palette is the one that I'm wearing today. This is Hot Jalapeno, and this is one, again, one that I use a lot. So these two shades at this end are matte and these two shades are shimmery. I feel like if you know you like green, this is a great option. If you're wanting to try green, this is a great option. It's also got the addition of a really, really bright gold, so you can dial down the green. You can dial down the intensity or like the greenness of the green by adding the gold, and it just makes it feel a little bit more wearable. I have gone full green today, but with a brown wing. So if you want to know all of the other products that I'm wearing today, not that this is like the best advert for it because I am full to the brim with cold, but if you're wanting to know the rest of the products that I'm wearing, that is in yesterday's video. This is a really, really great option. I absolutely love green. So again, getting really creative with the position of the swatches there, but a really, really great option. If you know you're wanting something that's green, this is a really great option. I do feel like if you have this one, you maybe don't need these two. You can get a similar sort of vibe. Obviously, if you're wanting something that is like a matte yellow, then this would be a great option. Or if you're wanting something that has that more orangey transition shade, this is a great option. I do feel like the shimmer in Hot Jalapeno and this shimmer here in Psychedelic Dreams is very, very similar. I also feel like this shimmer in Hot Jalapeno can be replicated in other shades, but the greens are unique. Like, you can't get the greens in any of the other shades really, any of the other palettes. So that is my thoughts on all of the E.L.F. Bite Size eyeshadow palettes. I would love to know if you've made it to the very end of this video, because I have been filming for over an hour and I don't think I've stopped talking, so this is going to be such a long video. I'm going to wrap it up here. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up, but I would love to know which is your favourite one. I would love to know. But until next time, thank you ever so much for watching. Bye.